Fans scrutinize the NBA over how far its players travel in between games. Rest is a constant issue in sports leagues, especially in the NBA, where a 2016 study by Numberfire showed that teams win 8% fewer games on average in back-to-backs. Players testify that road trips are too taxing on their energy levels. But what team has it the best? What organization has the easiest travel in the league? The NBA is split into the Eastern and Western conferences, each with 15 teams, to organize the schedule. There are also 6 divisions, each with 5 teams. Every member of the division is part of the same conference. In a season, one team will play 16 games against their division members, 24 games against 6 out-of-division in the same conference teams, and 3 games against the remaining 4 teams in the same conference but in a different division. Finally, the team will play 30 games against teams outside of their conference. 41 of these 82 games will be at home and 41 will be on the road. Now that we know the basics of scheduling, let's see how far each team travels in a season. A 2016 study by Carnegie Mellon University calculated the optimal schedule for an NBA season. They could only calculate a 66-game season to eliminate back-to-backs, but it's still a fairly accurate resource. The paper found that the Portland Trail Blazers traveled the furthest, while the Cleveland Cavaliers traveled the least. This makes sense considering that Portland is located far from any team, and they are in the more spread out Western Conference, and their division members like Minnesota and Oklahoma City are farther east and west. As for the Cavaliers, they play in the densely packed Eastern Conference. Not only are all their division members close, they are right next to their neighboring Atlantic Division, and they are closer to the east than the west. So that's it, right? Portland has it the worst and Cleveland's riding high. Well, not quite, because distance is only one part of the equation here. A team's time zone is another necessary factor to consider, so let's dive into that. Mainland USA is split into 4 time zones: Eastern on the East Coast, Central from the Mississippi River to the Rockies, Mountain between New Mexico and Montana, and Pacific on the West Coast. From east to west, each time zone is 1 hour behind the other, culminating with Pacific being 3 hours behind Eastern. This means that any players on an Eastern Conference team playing an evening 8 p.m. game in the Pacific time zone will feel like it's 11 p.m. when they would likely be asleep. Conversely, a Western Conference team playing an 8 p.m. game on the East Coast will feel like an 8 p.m. game is happening at 5 p.m. when they would be wide awake and energized. This discrepancy is due to an internal process known as circadian rhythm that your body uses to regulate how much sleep you get. If you've ever woken up at 3 a.m. once and kept doing that for a week, that's because being woken up when your body wants to sleep affects your circadian rhythm, and it will continue to wake up at 3 until you can break that habit. The problem is that your body doesn't know what time zone it's in, hence why a player from the East Coast will feel more tired on the West and vice versa. This throws a wrinkle into our original findings because, although Portland will travel farther for games, they will be more energized for those games. Cleveland will travel less for games, but the away games in the West will be more taxing. So what team is it? Place your bets in the comments and see if you can get it right. Drumroll please. The team with the best travel in the NBA are the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs check more boxes than anyone else in the league. Firstly, their division members, Houston, Dallas, Memphis, and New Orleans, are all very close to San Antonio, so 16 of their games require almost no travel. Because they are centrally located, they are closer than most Western Conference teams to the Eastern Conference, shortening the travel required for their 30 out-of-conference games. Finally, they reside in the Central Time Zone, meaning that games on the West Coast are only 2 hours out of sync for them. The reason that San Antonio is catapulted ahead of their Southwest Division counterparts is that they traveled 37,960 miles in the simulation run by Carnegie Mellon, less than Dallas, Houston, or New Orleans, and Memphis. Maybe the reason that San Antonio was so good for so long was their one secret advantage over everyone else. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. This is JB. Keep pushing the pace.